paranadari. Righto, councillors, Dave, you're ready to go? All good. So we'll get underway with our council meeting for the 27th of August, 2026, and I'll just hand over to Chris for a karakia. Thanks, Chris.
Morning, councillors. Whakatakata hou ki te uru, whakatakata hou ki te tonga, kia makinakina ki uta, kia mataratara ki tai, he aka ana te arakura, he tio, he huka, he hohu, ti hei mauri ora.
Thank you, Chris. Apologies. So far I have an apology for absence from Mikhail and Jennifer, and apology for lateness from Angela, and early departure from Katarina. And just noting we have Katarina online and also Chris Hughes online. Is that all we have online? Any other apologies? Okay, Noel's a potential. A mover for those. Thanks, Robbie. Seconded. Thanks, Keith. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. A confirmation of the agenda as it sits in front of us today. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Keith. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest that aren't in your registers that are relative to any items on our agenda today? No one in the room, no one online? No. Okay, so noted, thank you. Right, that moves us to our minutes for confirmation or receipt. And the first one up is the council minutes for the 30th of July. And everyone happy with how they have been recorded? I'm happy to move. Seconder and Keith. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. So next lot of minutes up, we have the WRC Transport Committee, and that's the open minutes only on the 4th of August. We have the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting on the 5th of August. And the Waikato Rapatu River Trust and Waikato Regional Council Co-Governance Committee meeting that was held on the 30th of July. The extraordinary RTC Public Transport Subcommittee meeting that was on the 11th of August. And the Hauraki Golf Forum meeting that was on the 29th of June.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
There were some matters that were raised in public excluded in the Waikato Rapatu co-governance meeting. I would like to just talk to that and clarify something, but obviously this is not the forum to do it. So could that be noted, and perhaps if we have a chance in X to just clarify some issues that were raised?
Yeah, well, we will receive those public excluded minutes in PEX and then your ability to talk to those. Thanks, Noel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Liz. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Right, our next item up is 7.2, and that's our LG&Z monthly update. We have Simon Randall with us. I'm not sure if Dion is online yet. Yeah. Not as yet. Okay. Welcome, Simon. Thank you very much. Councillors, you'll be aware that this was sort of one of the items that came about with our discussion of our membership with LG&Z, and one of the conditions that we sought was a guarantee from LG&Z that they would come along and report to us in person. I believe someone said so we could see the whites of their eyes, but that's all good. So I know, Simon, there's been a ton of work going on and across a lot of elements of local government, and also obviously there's a ton of work ahead of us as well. So I'll open up to you, and we'll pick up Dion hopefully when he comes online. But thank you for joining us this morning, and I'll hand over to you.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and councillors. It's great to be here at Waikato Regional. I'm going to steal Dion's script, so we might need to let him know that he doesn't need to repeat some of this information. It's a great pleasure to be here, and yeah, very, very good to be here in person. I want to start by making some observations of things that have happened since you chose to rejoin with us. Regional councils have had a strengthened voice on our National Council. So since we were last here, Rahit has been made president. She was acting president when Sam Broughton resigned. That's created a vacancy for a regional sector rep because she was a representative of the regional sector. So Chair Darren Ponta from Greater Wellington has been elected onto our National Council. Darren joins the Deputy Chair, Benita Bigham, and Dion Swiggs, who was co-opted to have a stronger regional council chair voice there. That brings up the total to 4 members from the regional sector on our National Council of 21. So nice strong voice. We've also set up reference groups for our 4 advocacy priorities that were chosen by the membership. And the regional sector is well represented on those. So Chair Warren, Councillor Liz are on the resilience reference group, which Chair Dion chairs. Also Councillor Kat McMillan from Bay of Plenty Regional Council is on that group, and that group is focused on climate adaptation, resource management reform, and a whole bunch of other things, including emergency management reform. Each of the other 3 reference groups has at least 1 regional council chair, and a number of them include at least a couple of elected members. Earlier this year, regional council chairs challenged LGNZ to improve our communication, engagement and visibility, and we've taken that very seriously. We've worked hard to try to increase engagement with the regional sector and to make sure that your perspectives are reflected in discussions about reform, resource management and local government funding particularly. National Councils started holding Zooms for members after every meeting. All elected members are invited to those Zooms, and it's a chance to hear your feedback and to hear directly from Rahit and National Council, as well as the chairs of those advocacy reference groups. Just wanted to touch on a couple of the reforms and what we've been doing. So for simplifying local government, obviously Head Start has been dominating conversations, and I certainly know that has been happening in the Waikato. National Council has been clear that our role as LGNZ is to be an honest broker. So we're not forming positions or views on individual proposals, but looking to support councils where they're at. And we're advocating where there is member consensus around process, around things that the whole sector would like. We've also been clear in those conversations that regional functions must remain front and centre in those arrangements going forward, and being very clear on the strength and the importance of a catchment-based approach when considering future arrangements. You'll have seen there's been a range of Zooms and resources provided to members in the lead up to the Head Start deadline. A lot of that is set out in the 4 monthly report, and I've got hard copies. If people like those at the end, I'll leave them probably with Dave. Last week, LGNZ made all Head Start proposals available in one place. So you've been seeing the link to that on our website so that you can see where other regions are at with Head Start proposals. And we're also planning how to support members in the next phases of this reform. And so very keen to hear feedback and views. That includes developing a position on regional governance post-2028 for regions or parts of regions not captured by Head Start. That is a piece of unfinished business that government has flagged needs to be resolved. The starting position is the CTB model, where mayors would be the governance of regional councils. We've started that conversation now. We started with the regional sector at their last meeting a couple of Fridays ago. We're very keen to kind of hear views of the regional sector about what those arrangements look like. A strong message, which will not surprise anyone in this room, and certainly we're looking to take forward, is that it is such a pivotal time for reform, particularly around resource management, a number of other key aspects that talk to regional functions. We need to have governance that understands those functions, that can make decisions around environmental planning. and governance arrangements need to reflect those needs. Just wanted to talk about some of the influence piece that we've been doing. Over the past year, we've rebuilt relationships across government opposition officials. That work's not always visible, but it's essential for our local voice, including regional council's voice, to be heard early in policy development rather than after decisions have been made. For example, in partnership with Te Uru Kahika, our GNZ organised a briefing for the National Party caucus on Te Uru Kahika's For the Deluge work programme, and that briefing was attended led by Regional Council Chair Darren Ponta. Darren also set up a meeting with the Greens, which Dion and myself attended, and engaged with members of the Green Party to influence and support their forward guidance. I just wanted to pull out just a couple of other pieces of our work from the 4-monthly report. Just wanted to kind of emphasise in terms of reform around simplifying local government, we've been really thoughtful about how we get your functions front and centre for TAs. It would be fair to say, and I think some mayors are now publicly saying this, there hasn't been a lot of understanding or appreciation for the regional functions, what they are, what it takes to deliver them, what success looks like in that space. As part of that, we've run dedicated webinars on those functions. We've worked with sector experts. We've used sector meetings to increase those understanding for TAs particularly. When we've engaged with officials, and we were very fortunate to be able to have the door open to us to engage with the advice that went out with Head Start proposals, we worked really closely with officials to make sure that they were clear on regional functions and how Head Start proposals should incorporate that. We've also been very clear that whilst government made the decision that regional councils wouldn't be a formal part of the Head Start proposals, it's essential that they are absolutely intimately involved in the next phases around the detailed design of those proposals.
I'll just briefly stop you there, Simon, because I see Dion has joined us. So welcome, Chair Dion. It's a shame you need to wear a fake daffodil. It's obviously too cold down there for the real ones to grow, unlike up here. But good morning.
Hey, thanks, Chair Warren. Yeah, no, definitely. Look, they're paper this year, so there is some sustainability in them. But the only daffodil that I have growing in my garden is the one that I got from the King. So I'm not going to chop that and wear that, I don't think. So yeah, sorry for. I had 9:45 in my diary, so apologies if I am slightly late.
No. The apologies ours. We got through our opening items rather quickly. So, and as Simon was sitting in the chamber, I thought it prevalent that we kick it off. So, welcome. Yeah, I'll go back to Simon to finish his piece, and maybe cut to you after that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And apologies, Dion, I stole your bit of the script, but I will I'll get through the next little bit, and I'm sure there will be some observations.
That's fine. We'll work through.
I think, and just to finish that, we've made sure that through our other sector events, Metro, ensured that we've had regional council and panels there, and I think one of our unique roles that we play is ensuring that there are those conversations across local government being had. There's a lot of other reform happening, and I don't need to tell you that. Some of the other things that are on our radar. Resource management reform, the government policy statement of land transport that we're expecting early in the next term, the rates cap that we're busily working through, the impacts of changes to climate change adaptation requirements around adaptation planning and priority areas, emergency management, a lot of other pieces. We're ensuring we're connecting with Te Uru Kahika to play that complementary role around our advocacy in those spaces, and to ensure that not just these reforms are delivered well and implemented well, but actually there is coherence across the system. and there's a lot of current disconnect in terms of some of the way that these reforms are landing. I did want to touch on remits. So at the AGM, one of the remits out of the 9 that were passed was one that was proposed by yourselves concerning the bulk funding of transport activities. As you know, that remit calls for a move to bulk funding of basic and repeatable transport activities that would create huge efficiency and benefit for councils. And there's a proposed trial in that area of that approach into the next funding round, which will be kicked off by that GPS. That remit attracted strong support from the membership and was ranked 4th priority, and National Council, as part of that prioritisation process, has decided that will receive the highest level of resourcing from us. So we've already reached out to your council this week to develop those next steps. That will fold it into our advocacy on the GPS land transport, but also spatial planning is a real opportunity to look again at the way that we plan infrastructure, funding and finance. We've also, in our election year advocacy, been talking to parties about how we can get greater devolution of funding decisions down to the local level, which aligns really nicely with that remit. Just in terms of a couple of other things that we're doing, we're really focused on supporting elected members. That is particularly front of mind in terms of the potential transition for regional council members. One of the areas that we've done a little bit of work, well, quite a bit of work recently, and that is from a partnership with Victoria University around micro-credentials. These are specific tertiary qualifications that recognise the breadth and complexity of your role as elected members. The first 2 micro-credentials on governance and leadership and finance and risk are assessed on existing work. So it's you submit a portfolio and there's an assessment on the basis of that. Registrations for those 2 micro-credentials close the 4th of September, and it's a pathway for tertiary postgraduate degree qualifications for you. In terms of looking ahead, the key things that we've focused on effective advocacy around the general election. So you've been invited to Zoom next week. We will roll out our pre-election toolkit and manifesto hosted by Ms. Tim McIndoe and Dame Fran Wild. We're also continuing to meet with all political parties and are thoughtful about what coalition parties will take into negotiation and how we can support in that space. We are focused on helping councils navigate the next phase of simplifying local government reform, with the government due to announce Head Start decisions in late December. We're starting to reach out to councils affected, including regional councils and Head Start areas around what support you specifically would like from us. And as I said, simplifying local government's not the only reform in town. We'll also be helping members navigate a range of announcements in the next 4 weeks. And there's about 4 or 5 bills that substantial reforms that we're looking to see at least pass through some stages, including passing into law of resource management reform, the first reading of the rates cap and the development of our submission on that, the passing of the System Improvements Bill, which changes the purpose, core services and a number of other aspects of the Local Government Act, potentially the passing of the Emergency Management Bill, and quite a number of other pieces of legislation. I'm going to finish there and hand to Dion if he has anything further to say, and then very, very happy to answer questions.
Yeah, look, thanks for that, Simon. And I did notice that email come through on reaching out on the bulk funding for transport, which is obviously a piece that we'll follow up on. And just for councillors' information, noticed huge support from Mr. Ponta down in Wellington with the same thing. They find it very frustrating that they've got to submit hundreds of business cases for transport routes that they regularly go out for funding for. So the flexibility that would provide with bulk funding and be able to manage it yourselves would be far more beneficial. I'll hold questions to the end if you don't mind, councillors, and come to Dion.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Simon, and thanks, Warren. The remit that you guys put through is very useful. We've got about 13 odd business cases that we're trying to navigate the way through for small pieces of public transport network improvements, and it's absolutely a nightmare. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can get out of that. I've got a couple of notes here. I'm not going to read all through them. I'm not very good with reading what we need to say, but I just wanted to really just reiterate that Rehet's really supportive of our regional sector, and it's great to have her as the president now. That created a vacancy within the National Council, and now we've got Darren Ponta, chair of Wellington Regional Council, on National Council as well. So we've got some pretty good, strong representation now within the Local Government New Zealand body for regional sector, alongside the Deputy Chair, Benita Bingham, and myself on National Council. So we really do seem to be getting a good voice and a good hearing. And I have noticed quite a shift within the National Council and within the body or the organisation of Local Government New Zealand, who has really tried to work with the regional sector to champion the work that we do and also navigate through some of the challenges that we are facing around the reform and whatnot. And as part of that, we've set up those reference groups that you know about, and they've got regional sector representation on each of those. I was really keen in National Council to ensure that the regional sector had at least 2 members on each of those from the chairs of the regional sector, and we've got some CEs and some other members from around the country who have put their hands up. Those groups will be setting the priorities for Local Government New Zealand, and those priorities about where we work and how we work and what we focus on will start to permeate through over the next probably 6 to 12 months, which is really the influence that we can have as a regional sector while we're still here on what the transition and what the new shape of local government kind of looks like in the future. So I'm really keen to make sure that we continue that work, and the advocacy that yourself and others are putting into that from the regional sector, I think would be really useful, because if we don't do it and we don't keep our foot to the gas or the gas on the pedal, a lot of the conversations will become TA focused, and that's natural, I understand that, but we don't want to lose focus of what's really important from our regional delivery and everything that we do. Earlier in the year, as you know, the chairs of the regional chairs challenged local government to improve communication, engagement and visibility, and I think local government has taken that on quite seriously. There's been a number of conversations backwards and forwards. LGNZ's been working to increase the engagement with the regional sector and to make sure that the regional perspectives are reflected in the discussions around reform, and hopefully you'll be starting to notice an increase in communications, and we'll continue to improve that as time goes on, as people sort of say this is what's really important, or this is what we're wanting to hear about, and I think that will just and if feedback is useful to keep making sure that we're improving in that. And National Council obviously is holding those Zooms. I really just wanted to touch on the simplifying local government. The Head Start's obviously dominating the conversations, and LGNZ's mainly been focused as a broker of information on that. Hasn't been taking positions on individual proposals, but supporting councils wherever they are and advocating where member consensus can be found. What you will have seen is a range of the Zoom calls and the resources that are available to members is the amount of information that isn't available from the government, and local government really is trying to plug that gap, talking to the ministries, talking to the ministers and saying the feedback that we're getting from local councils and saying to those ministers and ministries, this is the information that you need to be providing. Where are the gaps? Because there probably are more gaps than information at the moment in a number of the ways that the proposed bills and legislation and proposals are being put forward. Last week, the LGNZ made all Head Start proposals available in one place on their website. That's on the Local Government New Zealand website, and that was I've gone through a number of them, and it's a very interesting read if you're interested in looking at that. And now local government is looking to plan how to support members through that next phase of reform, as Simon was saying, and that includes developing a position on regional governance post 2028. We just had a conversation about that at National Council 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and we are looking to try and understand from the regional sector what governance potentially looks like on regional delivery, because it might not be the same as it is now, but the regional delivery of some of our core functions, if it's fractured throughout the process of reform, will not see any good results for our communities. And that's something that we're really cognizant of. And I've been, and also Darren now, really trying to work with local government, New Zealand National Council, to ensure that that conversation is front and centre. And that's really only a couple of weeks old, that conversation. So I'll keep you updated about where that goes. And the last thing I really wanted to say is the influence piece is really working, I think, and it's really making a difference. And Simon probably talked a little bit about this, is National Council sees the influence of its influence job as one of local government New Zealand's main roles. And we've all seen sort of the bashing that we're getting from government on so many different fronts at the moment. But we've just tried to rebuild some of the relationships with central government and especially in the officials and also the opposition parties, because what we don't want to see happen is that after the election, everything starts back at scratch. So the work is often not visible, but it's definitely essential for the local government's voice. And I can really say that we're doing that. I'm up on Monday talking to Andrew Hoggard about the report that we released, to the Kahika report on the regional delivery of biosecurity and how we can make sure that biosecurity doesn't get fragmented through reform. As that report stated, $124 million of investment throughout the country has the potential of a $1.5 billion loss through our productive economy if we have any fragmentation through the reform process. So we're really cognizant of making sure that the joining up of the work that Te Uru Kahika is doing and the work that LGNZ is doing through the advocacy is matching up so that we're getting good good advocacy and making sure that the points are known by the people that make a difference up in Wellington. And another example of that is we've just also released that Before the Deluge Tranche 3. You will have possibly seen that now, and that's a really big piece of work led by Te Uru Kahika again, but LGNZ's been supporting in the advocacy space, putting us in front of ministers where we needed to be put in front of. Last week, Darren and I met, was it 2 weeks ago? Darren and I met with the Green Party to make sure that they understood what that meant and how we can get baseline funding, especially for river resilience across the country within the budgets. So I'll leave it at that. That's just a really quick snapshot of a few things there, and really happy to take questions. Really nice to sort of be there. I was in your office in that chamber a couple of months ago with Warren and your ELT as well. It was really nice to meet your ELT and have a good discussion with them as well. So I'm really keen to touch base and hope to see some of you up at the conference, or up for me, down for you in Rotorua a couple of months' time.
Hey, look, thanks for that update, Darren. Really informative. And
I'm Dion.
Yeah, Dion. Dion, Darren. Yeah, sorry, Dion. Hey, yeah, look, and I know a number of the items that you've touched on actually clarify some of the concerns that this council had with rejoining LGNZ. You know, for me, one of them was financial. We've seen that improve, but certainly your input into ministers and also opposition, and that the work alongside Te Uru Kahika and even the work with Jeremy Lightfoot and the relationships that are being built in that space as the head of MCERT. It's great to see those relationships and the messaging getting through, and the fact that, you know, ministers are coming to LGNZ, etc., you know, to talk things over. So it's awesome to see those relationships being rebuilt and that sort of thing in that space. So looks like we've got a couple of questions in the chamber, so I'll go to Ben.
Yeah, I've got 4 questions. The first one relates possibly to Simon. We're talking about the regional voice moving forward post 2028 or in the interim. Obviously, the spatial planning framework is going to be important, and that's something the regional councils are still driving. So if you've got comments on that, and also in relation to the long-term plan, this is our last long-term plan. So it may, well, one of the things we may be working on is setting out issues for an incoming CTB, so that whatever's in the long-term plan is sitting there so that whoever takes over knows. Do you or Dion have any comments on that? spatial planning and LTP.
Come to Simon first. Yeah. Just leave that mic on too.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I mean, in terms of spatial planning, yes, absolutely. That is essential, that there is regional voice into that, and it is basically that first step that sets up for future arrangements around the environmental plans and use plans. And I guess, I mean, the timeframe shifted around a bit, but as I said, considering what those governance arrangements look like alongside the requirements of implementing resource management reform is essential, because a lot of the skills and knowledge that you have around this governance table and that Waikato Regional Council has as a body really needs to be fed into that spatial planning process. I'm not sure if I quite get the full question that you're asking.
So it's just, obviously we don't disappear till 2028. We will have a key role to play to make sure that regional issues are written into policy documents, and that the long-term plan will also be one of those mechanisms.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in terms of spatial planning, in terms of the environmental planning, that is very much at the forefront of the advocacy we're doing around RM implementation and the skills required. In terms of long-term plans, we've been having some engagement around some of the regulatory burdens that sit on councils going to reform. You're not one of them, but there are 4 regional councils, for instance, that have to undertake representation reviews for councils that won't have elections. So it's those sorts of things that we're doing some advocacy around. Right-sizing the LTP and getting those requirements correct is a bit of a missed opportunity, I think, from this government, in terms of the fact that they haven't passed legislation to clarify what is the useful exercise for regional councils to be undertaking in their long-term plans going forward. However, I absolutely agree with the point that this is setting up the raw functions for success, regardless of what future transition looks like. Certainly the example that we have from Auckland, and we're doing some work around conference to kind of flesh that out and be clearer about what that transition looked like. The fact that the regional council had a 10-year plan going into that process meant that the services, the infrastructure, the investment, the requirements around those functions were clearly set up for success during that transition into the new council process. And so that is absolutely front of mind for us.
I think there's a huge. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to suggest that's very useful. That what you've just said, and might be worth a little paper or two just to remind us on those LTP. Sorry, Dion. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I was going to chime in there is Warren. I think this is something that we can pick up potentially in one of our. Something that we're doing is we've also got now 2-week little catch-ups with our chairs across the country, and I think this would be something to pick up there. Simon, if you can keep a note of this as well, is in the LTPs. How do we structure those LTPs to be documents that are like handover documents for whatever comes next in terms of the governance of regional councils? Because what we're talking about here in Canterbury is creating a document at the end of the next 2 years as like a dossier to whoever's going to be governing the organisation alongside our LTP, but more importantly, those 30-year infrastructure strategies that we're doing at the moment, saying these are the things that you need to take over, and these are the levels of service that you can't be messing with when you transition into those things. So I think if we can do that across the country, and that kind of ties in with some of the advocacy work that we're doing around the delivery piece with, say, Hoggard and in the Before the Deluge, I think if we can tie that in and give some guidance to councils around that over the country, it might be quite useful. But we can pick that up. I think that's a really good point and a good idea.
Yeah, thanks, Dion. I know it's something that our staff are actually already thinking around those lines, that the first 3 years are the deep dive, the granular stuff in your LTP, but the outlying 7 years are actually around that messaging. And you know, this is what we do, this is why we fund it, you know, this is what's in behind it. So yeah, to pick up that piece, and I think, Jen, you're right, you know, give some coverage to all councils thinking along those lines. That's the messaging to help with that transition.
And just on that, the comment on the Auckland Council is useful because it's got precedent, the 10-year. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. All I was going to say is the other bit around influence. I meet regularly with the office, and so we've already had conversations about where their thinking is at around how they use their discretion around auditing and what they focus on, to give you a bit of a steer to align with exactly, as Chair Marr says, the focus on those robust 3 years, and then setting that signal going forward.
Fine. Second question was in relation to the annual remits, financial support for government reform implementation costs. I guess we're swinging there. Maybe this is for Dion rather than you, given it's political, but Waikato Times today has come out from a number of mayors complaining that rates capping is being implemented at a time where local government reform is adding significant unfunded costs.
I don't know whether
this is definitely something at our National Council we did discuss and talked about. We're going to have to do some advocacy around this transition costs. Every time that we meet with Jeremy, we're talking about what are the transition costs, and it's not just for local government reform. It's also for RM reform. It's for what's the emergency management reform. It's for every other reform at the moment. Jeremy talks about $200 million that they have for reform implementation. Most of that is going to be sucked up with the new One Plan development. So there isn't very much money in the ministry for councils around implementation of RM, let alone anything around implementation of the simplification for local government. So this is where we as local government are definitely having conversations at the moment. We'll keep you up to date about this. As you saw, RHET came out yesterday with a bit of a negative slant on the rates capping in the environment that we're in with everything that's happening at the moment. It's a pretty tricky position for RHET to take, because obviously the people out there want less taxes and less costs, but the reality is that there is going to be massive amount of costs that are going to be borne on their communities. So some smart messaging is going to be needed around how do we do that? And that's definitely something that the National Council is talking about. Simon, I know that you're doing some work as well on this, and so maybe it'd be useful for you to talk about what you're actually doing.
Absolutely. So unfunded mandates are a big focus for the financially sustainable local government priority reference group, and very lucky to have Chair from Horizons on that group. So we are looking to kind of do some advocacy and some background into cost shifting. For instance, it's a small example, but the emergency management reforms that are likely to pass this year will cost local government and ratepayers $88 million over 4 years to implement. That is not the biggest cost. The whole of the RM reform is going to cost $11 billion across 30 years. A lot of that is going to sit on ratepayers. Our key advocacy position is generally around central government should be paying those costs, that actually they should fund those mandates. However, as Chair Dion says, also rates capping makes some of this stuff challenging. We have had a success, so I'm currently reading the 400 and something pages of rates capping documents that came out a couple of days ago. We were engaged and worked quite closely with the corporate and finance SIG from Te Kahika on engagement around the rates cap and the formula that was used. One of our key pieces of advocacy was about the rates cap needed to take into account the cost shifting from central government. We actually have had some success. So in setting the cap, which the Minister will do on advice from the regulator, that's what's proposed. The Minister must take into account the known and likely costs that central government is likely to impose from reform onto local government.
Good.
That is a win from our advocacy working with membership. As I said, it would be nice actually if they just paid for it rather than shifting it onto ratepayers. But actually, at least that is not going to put pressure on existing cost pressures on local government from further reform into the future.
Yeah, and if I can just pick up on that, Simon, I think there was quite a bit of criticism out in the media of LGNZ coming out against the rate capping initially, when you go back last year. But I think that coupled with that, there was a lack of understanding of the impact that mayors and chairs and that sort of thing were actually indicating that this would cause in your day-to-day business and that sort of thing. And I think now there's an understanding out there of the impact potentially of what's in rate capping, what's outside rate capping, and the ability for councils to actually, if their communities want something, for them to be able to rate for it. And we have so much targeted rates and that sort of thing, and there's communities out there that are benefactors of paying more for a service function that we provide. And I think that was lost in the original narrative when the criticism was flying around. So I think it's a case of understanding the full picture before you start slinging some mud on a potential standpoint. But thanks. You're done, Ben? Gary Raymer. And then I've got Robbie.
Thank you for the presentation. When you talk about governance, what I see really, or what I'm hearing, I suppose, maybe, and whether correct me if I'm hearing it correctly, is it's all about structure. And for me, the biggest concern is your structure is important, but I don't see it as being the biggest issue at the end of the day. In the governance, I really like to see some leadership on is how will we actually govern those new structures? How will democracy work? And I think we need to start seeing and getting some discussion out there, maybe led by LGNZ, as different options around governance, how the pros and the cons, because there's more than one way that we can govern our new organisations. And I think, to me, the quality of the governance of the new organisations is going to be more important than the actual structure of the governance in themselves. And we're just not seeing any discussion or leadership around that area.
Absolutely agree with that. That is a piece of work that we're very interested in engaging with during Head Start and also Backstop, which is how you get fit for purpose governance and leadership arrangements around those new entities. It's whilst local government has engaged in good faith in this process, it's no surprise that there is a preference generally to talk about structure following function. And this was just straight a conversation about structure rather than function. And the sector's done really good work to actually get function back into that conversation. We're really up for think pieces, support, commissioning things that kind of help that arrangement, those arrangements be thought about better. Really keen to hear some ideas offline about what that could look like. We've done some think pieces, so we released one around what those governance arrangements could look like, both at the local level and also if you have multiple unitaries in a region, what is that regional piece? But that is very much in an early stage, and so keen to take that forward.
So Gary, just picking up on that, we have avenues into that discussion and that sort of thing. So ideas like that and that sort of thing. This is the job of LGNZ to listen to the feedback and the feed in that's coming into that those pieces of work and that sort of thing. So I know potentially you may also be thinking, like professional advisory groups and exterior experience and that sort of thing. And we know that the government's got a bit of legislation around whether they have voting powers or not, but there's still the advantage of having some of that professional input into a governance structure of some sort. So it's all that sort of thing that we can actually feed in, be it at a zone meeting, be it at a regional meeting, etc. So we have those avenues. It's up to us to actually feed in some of those pieces. I think Dion.
If I can just follow up, Warren, we'll be there through our submissions. Can you just give me a bit of a heads up on that process?
Yep. Look, we can take that offline and actually show how to work into that space. Robbie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Dion and Simon, for the papers. As most of you will be aware, I was the councillor that got shot down the most for supporting you guys. So 100% behind where you're going with the institutional knowledge that's obtained when these organisations are taken out of their role, and then the unitaries that are formed that understand our role and how they're going to include that work in their new unitary. So 100% supportive of that. The rate cap thing is a real issue, even around issues that Dion just brought up around biosecurity and pest control. When you have communities that are willing to pay whatever it costs to get out of there, I think you need to have a good talk with Mr. Holgart, saying these sort of things cannot be controlled by rates control. It is a level of delivery that these communities are putting against it. And if you're not going to pay it in central government and these communities are willing to pay for it, you have to let it happen. So Dion, I hope you push that really hard.
It's on the agenda already. So
yeah, I know, but I'm pressuring you to put extra pressure on it, because I'm speaking as a farmer and a family farming operation that's been farming in the Waikato for 100 years, and this is a big issue within all biosecurity and pest control throughout New Zealand. So I'm just putting an extra bit of pressure on you to make sure that he hears that very loud and clear. Thank you.
Got the message.
Yeah, thank you. Because as you go around, like Mr. Shane Jones is saying that he's prepared to put like 100 million into pest control of koi carp in the Waikato. So government is listening. You just need to just make sure they've got the right ears on, that the community are willing to pay for this themselves if they believe the need is there. And the rates capping around flood protection and drainage is another thing, because that's a level of service that these communities are willing to pay for. And it's in our adaptation plans that we're doing right now, that these communities want the same level of service to continue for the next 80 years. So that needs to be very clear, that rate control or rate capping is not a part of that discussion. And I hope that's made very clear. So thank you. And I hope you keep promoting the way that we are speaking around this council table to the ministers. And it's not to beat them up. I don't want anyone beating up ministers. I want them to understand what our communities are willing to pay for and they want delivered on. So just keep pushing that way, and I think they'll get it. Some of those ministers understand it as well. So all the best and good luck. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
I think Dion's right across that sort of messaging, Robbie, with his council in that area. Very, very similar. Yeah, very similar.
And I get that message from you plenty as well. Thanks, Warren. So you're definitely sharing similar messages. So it's useful.
Yeah. No, excellent. I'm just going to quickly reach out with staff in the room. So we've got our ELT pretty much in the room represented, Dion, and just have staff got any questions or comments for LGNZ? They're all shaking their heads. Excellent. Okay, no, that was all. I just thought you might have a little bit of question or an angle that you'd like to expose. Hey, so thank you very much, Dion. Thank you very much, Simon, for coming along.
Cheers, team.
Enjoy the rest of your day and travel safely. Simon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Right. We'll see you again soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the table to accept the presentation. If I could have a mover, Robbie, and a seconder, Gary Maguire. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried.
Did you record me? Hey, what's it recorded?
Right, the next item before us is 7.7, and it's a notice of motion brought by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Cookson. Now, this is the addendum that came through, which is on page 3 of the addendum. You'll need a microphone too.
It's unusual. You normally want to take it off me.
Yeah. that still may come to pass, no, but let's run with it for the moment.
All right, hey, thanks very much for the opportunity to put this motion in. A number of you have discussed this with me previously, or Robbie, so won't go into any more than a few comments here. Firstly, this motion is about council as the owner or custodian of the regional plan, taking control of and giving direction on all matters of policy, policy relating to the Plan Change 1. And for clarity, this motion does not include the Environment Court proceedings. So I'll take the opportunity to move that, sir. Thank you.
I note the motion's been.
And I'll second it. I don't need to speak to it. I think that's very clear. We don't need to go any further.
Okay, then I'm happy to put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Could you put it on the screen?
It is on the
Just
screen.
like sorry, it's not showing up. Hang
Can I ask a question, Chair?
Yes, Senator Carolina.
I have no problems with this motion at all, but that's only pertaining if you're talking as a councillor, right? Because everybody's talking about this in iwi and whatever, you know. So if we're wearing a council kotai, then this corridor should pertain to that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Making
thanks,
it
Carolina.
clear. Thank you.
Okay. Our next item is the health and safety report, I believe.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I just need some clarity about what exactly that means in terms of the notice of motion having gone through, because it's a little bit unclear to me. So all matters pertaining to Plan Change 1 policy, except matters before the Environment Court. If we could just get some clarity about what the expectation of that means.
You would need a microphone.
Well, I can go into detail, but we did agree that we wouldn't. I'm in your hands, sir.
Okay, so if I can outline it for you, Chris. Basically, as I see the process moving through, we've got the court process going on, which councillors have no desire or ability to affect. Once that direction comes out from the court, then that decision on that comes back to this table, and this motion's a clarity around that motion or that item will then come to council for adoption as part of that.
Could I just add, if I may, sir,
Yep.
and you can cut me off if you want to.
Yep.
The issue for me is that I want more involvement, and I've got the support of council, more involvement on how we take PC1 forward, rather than leaving it entirely to staff to implement the operational side of things. So basically coming back, running it through council and just being on board so that we are aligned, and it's not about anything more than giving council an opportunity to be involved.
Oversight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So it's a statement of fact then.
Yeah.
That we're on the journey in one walker.
Thank you for the clarity, because as you'll be
That
aware,
would be the case anyway, wouldn't it?
Yep. Thanks, Chris.
no. So as you'll be aware, there'll be plenty of discussions through the long-term plan process about going forward. But it is, and you might also be aware, it's kind of a little bit murky with the government having withdrawn its amendment at the moment. But I expect that the amendment might be replaced. It's not a very clear situation right at the moment, but I'm sure clarity will come, and we'll keep you posted with what's involved. If I could just throw to Brent, I know he's quite keen to say something.
Yes, it's really important for my part of the business that resolution is clear, because I heard the councillors talk about matters policy related. That's not what that resolution says. My people have been implementing Plan Change 1 since 2016. If every matter relating to Plan Change 1 needs to come here, that's a significant change to my business. So I heard the councillors say before around policy. I just implore you to have the wording on the resolution that you are passing to be very clear about that. Otherwise, You'll have an incredible amount of work coming before you as we have been implementing Plan Change 1, because rules have been live in Plan Change 1 since 2016. And this says all matters pertaining to Plan Change 1. So I just implore you, if it's just the policy, can we have the resolution reflect what you said earlier? Otherwise, I'm bringing you a lot of stuff.
We've actually moved and seconded the motion, but I'm happy. We took advice from the Democracy this morning that we could not change the resolution, understanding orders, and insert the word policy. And so we had to run with what was there. And that's why I included it in my introduction. And I understand Democracy has recorded those comments and the intent of what Council is doing. I'm in the hands of the Chair as to whether you wish to take a second motion, sir.
Dave.
Can you go away? Please, please.
Councillor Smith is quite correct. Once a notice of motion is received, moved and seconded, it may not be altered or amended. That being said, we have had a discussion around this motion, and I have clearly recorded in the minutes supporting this motion that it relates to policy only. So it'll be crystal clear for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to get the clarity.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Health and Safety Report, page 82 of your agenda, and we will go down to Stu Brown.
Good morning, councillors. As per normal, I'll take you to a few areas of interest through the report. As we've discussed in the lead up to today, the Health and Safety at Work Amendment Act comes into effect in April next year, and we've talked about the focus that's going to continue to be on our critical risks. We're in a good position for that. Obviously, we've identified those and have been working for them for quite a period of time now, so it won't be a significant change for us, which is great. The Act also calls out the obligations around due diligence, and we've now had the session with Karina McCluskey and our counterpart on that. So hopefully that was a good discussion for you. It was very engaging, and I thought that the session went well. As we move through, our dynamic risk management training is underway, and we have had 70 field staff now go through that, and reports have been excellent. They found it very engaging, very practical, and we hope to get probably another 70 to 80 through that in the coming months. So that's going really well. And that's really about staff out there being able to recognise the changing conditions, stop work and pause when it's required to actually have a look and confirm the controls that are in place, and ensure that they remain effective. We often talk about the executive walkarounds around our critical risks to assess those and see what's going on in the field. We also have engaged over the last few months our senior leadership team to do that. Those have been going well. We continue to mentor the senior leaders in the organisation to really look for what the gaps are, where the issues around our controls are, what might be missing. So I'm hoping to bring you some examples of their findings over the next month or two following that work, which is great. And just a note, we've actually also launched our leadership development programme today. The pilot runs today, and that will further help our leaders to focus on those areas that are important. Also, moving through in the lead indicating space, we are working with Vault to get our overlapping duties into the app so that we can ensure that we have a constructive meeting with contractors that we're working with out there in the field, so that we understand our obligations and they understand theirs, and ensure that all of the critical risks and controls are in place before any work actually starts. Another thing, it's not in the report, but I just thought I would bring it along to show you today. Some of our field teams have asked for a practical toolbox guideline or something that they could refer to in the field for their pre-start work. So the health and safety team have developed a one-pager, which is a really pragmatic guide for them to all use across the organisation. So we've got consistency, something that's practical, isn't onerous, doesn't take too much time, but covers all of the points. So we're really pleased that that's getting out into the field and being used now. That's all I have. Happy to take it.
Can you circulate that to councillors? Thanks, Stu. Just for our FYI.
Yep.
Thank you. Ben.
Yes, thank you, Stu, for that excellent seminar on governance liability issues. I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that Tauranga City Council recently had a report on the potential collapse of the mountain, but because the meeting was cancelled, the councillors did not read the report, and that has been mentioned. And that subsequent to that, the councillors and the mayor are not liable, but the chief executive may be. You want to comment on that, because that's something news that you haven't talked about in this?
Yeah, and I guess that's the challenge I have coming to you today, but preparing the report a month ago. So we're actually in the process of writing the report for you next month, which actually has a section on the mount, what happened there, the issues from a health and safety perspective that are prosecutable, but also, what's going on within the organisation around risk management, who owns that, who owns the controls, and the collaboration across the organisation. So I'll not talk to that if that's okay today, but I will bring you that in the next report.
That's fine. But what it raises for me is if councillors are aware of a safety issue and we fail to act upon it, then we are potentially liable. Okay, so this is an issue coming up subsequently in the Te Matatini. We've been given two options about, there's a cheaper version of providing the buses, which states...
let's cover that.
No, it's relevant. I wanted his opinion on this.
Okay.
Because it states that attendees would need to walk 700 metres and cross railway lines, or we can do the more expensive option, which is where they don't have to cross railway lines, etc., etc. So if we're given two options like that, are we potentially at risk if we're making people take unsafe actions due to our transport network?
Well, this is Phil's normal aspect of joy, isn't it? Public transport.
Yeah,
from my
we'll come to that shortly, but I'm just saying in terms of the liability issues around safety, then you're pre-aware of them.
I think if you're crossing railway lines, if there's a crossing and a safe place to do so, that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I would view it the same as a bus service, and your passengers may have to cross the road to get to the bus stop. I can't see it being any more arduous on us as such, and it would more be down to an operator's issue rather than, because there's no danger identified to us, just the fact that they have to walk or potentially cross. So you've got Kiwi Rail that's affected in that space, so surely that they will be aware that if people have to cross their railway line, that's in their space. And I would imagine that the Te Matatini operating group will have a hazard risk register and that sort of thing to identify those sorts of things. So, I struggle to see the relevance for regional councillors on our bus and the point you're raising, Ben.
Well, we can talk about the actual issue when we get to Te Matatini. I just wanted to flag that we're aware that people, because you park the bus here, people now have to cross the railway line in straggledy fashion, is different than if you park the bus right beside the venue and they don't have to do that. So, two options.
Tipper online.
Kia ora, and thank you for the report. Just wondering how we monitor going forward into the reform, staff morale, and what might the indicators be?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We are just about to kick off our new culture/pulse survey in the next 4 to 6 weeks. There's a paper going to the executive within the fortnight to discuss that, and a significant component of that will be safety and well-being related questions. So we're looking forward to seeing those results. There'll obviously be action plans following that. Obviously, that goes alongside our employee assistance that we continue to monitor and report on our other well-being opportunities, thrive in the organisation, and having conversations around that. So, thank you.
Thanks for that. Any other questions of Phil? Right, we have a motion in front of us to receive the report. I can have a mover and a second. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Tipper. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Thank you, Stu. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Right, the next item in front of us is the Waikato Resilience Framework on page 90 of your agenda. You'll be aware that we've had a couple of workshops on this.
Happy to move.
You will still get your 2 minutes of fame. Yeah, so once again, obviously, this has been through a couple of councillor workshops. I think we have a fairly good understanding. So by the quick moving and seconding of this, councillors have read their reports, but we'll hand down to you guys for comments. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair, councillors. Yeah, I'm really proud of the fact we've got to this point. We've been gestating this one for probably over 12 months now, and I just want to firstly acknowledge the tremendous work the team's done, particularly Lisa, burning the midnight oil. Emily, unfortunately, can't be here today. She's on a leadership development course. But anyway, Lisa and Emily are just two of many people across the council that have a lot of hours and effort in. So, yeah, big acknowledgement for that. The ink is just dry on the framework document, and yeah, we're pretty proud of that. Hopefully you get an opportunity to read it if you haven't already done so. Essentially, we have some slides. I'm more than happy to ask that the report be accepted as read, and we can just take questions, take your guidance on whether you want us to take you through slides.
How many slides have you got for us?
There's only 3 or 4. Some of it is recap from the previous workshop. Essentially, the key point for me is we haven't made substantial changes. We've made some minor changes based on the feedback that we've received. So I really appreciate that feedback. Maybe if I jump to the last slide, which is really about where to from here. I just want to acknowledge the fact that we are just asking at this point for adoption of the framework, so we can then begin the work to plan and develop a plan for implementation. So there's no commitment for investment at this point. You may wish to exercise that opportunity during the LTP process. Obviously, keep things from here, assuming adoption. We have a lot of work to do to communicate this internally and externally, of course. The framework sets out a lot of the work that is perhaps already ongoing, but in a fragmented way, as we've mentioned. So the important thing here is that we bring the organisation together on this one framework. Implementation planning, we've already begun a little bit of work on that. We are seeing quite some clear gaps, I think, in terms of being able to deliver it consistently, given the resourcing issues that we've raised previously. And those are areas that perhaps are a risk in terms of emergency response, pausing activity. So that may be the conversation you have in September workshop. Progress updates, we propose that we bring updates to you through the Regional Growth and Resilience Committee, and we'll do that through the normal report process. And then, of course, there should be an opportunity and a necessity really to review this framework once we see clarity through legislation. So that's probably the real guts of it, is that we're working in an uncertain environment, and so this framework's prepared with that in mind. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, look, thanks for jumping to the last one, and I think it's always interesting for councillors, to see where next steps go and what comes out of a report that's written. And please don't take the quick moving and seconding of it as any reflection. This is a serious piece of work, and it's certainly front of mind for councillors. And it looks like we have a couple of questions. So Gary and then Robbie.
Yeah, thank you for the report, and I did read right through it, and I think for this I'll have a look at that. Look, the only comment I got is on point 23, page 93 of our agenda, just around including emission reductions and why that word needs to be in there, because we risk and re-use mitigation, and I agree with where you want to go on climate mitigation. So it's about how we do that in resilience, but emissions reduction seems to be that we're including something that could be incredibly costly and for very little effect. So I'd take that out.
Yeah, I think probably the section that you're referring to is we were essentially saying that when we're looking at making decisions, we should be balancing a whole range of factors. And so emissions reduction is really only one of those factors. So in any decision, it's a criteria. So it's not the main thrust. I think it's just one reference in there as a concept that needs to be considered, you know, alongside nature and sustainability and biodiversity.
Yeah, so just noting there's no weighting factor or anything against it as outlined. It's just as Lisa indicated, it's just something to be aware of. You know, it's a potential criteria. How much weighting may be put on it per various project, et cetera, would be decided.
So I understand that. Just having that word there and that awareness. You know, it's in the back of your mind, and if we're thinking about cost and everything else, we talked earlier on about rates control. When it's in the back of your mind, you're still considering it, and it will still have potentially, even if it's very minor, influence on a decision. And I'm saying, and I don't deny climate change. I'm fully aware of it, but I think our focus should be on mitigation and not trying to actually change that reduction. So even at a very small level, if it's in the back of your mind, it is just something there that is thought about and influenced, and I think it takes that discussion.
Robbie.
I just Gary's point. I just want to talk. I'm sort of leaning towards Gary, but the thing about it, instead of being emissions in the most practical energy use possible, would be I think, than just the broad, because we're also talking about energy use and other things when we're talking about that, I'd imagine. We're not just of the emissions of whatever we're doing. Like, we don't want to get into, I don't know, but that's where I'm sort of, but my main question was going to be, where do you guys see this resilient team in 3 years' time? When us governors aren't around this table, is the direction that this is a part of the externals outside of the unitary? So you're still scoping this as a Waikato regional resilience, or because you're talking about biosecurity and biodiversity. Most of these unitaries are saying that's a model outside of so this would most probably fit into that space as well. That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah,
that you aren't going to lose all of the technical ability you guys have in this resource to then get broken up around the region, that it actually becomes a nothing again. Now, you know where I'm going, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. If I may, through the chair, it's been in the back of our minds as we've developed this, and so we've developed it with the consideration for what if this gets broken up. There is a risk, and my instinct talking to TAs around the region is they do not have some of the competence of this council, so there have to be some resolution to how they're going to build that competency, or whether they buy that competency. So again, unknown. I can't really answer the question fully, but add an awful lot of value both in terms of information we hold and the skills and resources that we have. Do see a key role for this organisation to continue to support the TAs in their adaptation. I guess key part of the framework is that we're helping them prioritise based on risk and have the intel and the understanding of what that risk is and the consequences of that risk. So I think we're well placed, and I think that's how we will.
Because we just heard from Simon and Dion about what's important to make sure that the unitaries, and so I think this is a part of that as well, that this is protected in that space. Does that make any sense, Warren? Or
No. Support your comments, Robbie. I think it is. This is one of the tools in the toolbox that we need to make sure that whatever the future looks like, this is picked up and this work is carried on through.
Well, and I'm just worried the
critical.
skill base required to work in this space cannot
Yeah.
be broken out into 3 unitaries in the Waikato. They just won't be able to resource it, or they won't be, well, maybe they can, but they can't afford to resource it in the end. That's the issue that I'm trying to make. So,
Yeah,
thank you.
I think it's a really important comment that you're making, and it's not the only area as we go forward. But I think one of the things is that we've been trying to advocate for that as we've gone around the TAs and their thinking. When you start thinking about this is exactly the type of technical expertise that you just can't split a person into 2 or into 3 or into 4. It's exactly the type of expertise that we're saying that the government will need to think about when they are going to be considering what any future local government reform. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's just, I don't know what's going to happen over the next 2 years. We're looking into a crystal ball, but that's where the CCO model or something that some of these key, our organisation supplies key services that these split up unitary organisations will not be able to deliver. And maybe that's something when we talked about it this year, that we need a CCO model. Maybe we still do. So that's something for us councillors to talk. And when this is going through its process of forming the unitaries and then selling that to the new unitary model, that this must maybe be. I know speaking.
Well, we know what you're saying, and Chris is totally agreeing with you. Yeah, it's something that we're opening their eyes up to, and this is a really important piece of work to help support that. Yeah, going forward. Yeah, Keith.
Thanks, Warren, and thanks, Lisa. I just wearing my hat of chair of the committee. One of the things that just like to have comfort on is that when we do have pastoral, that pull all the stops out to get back into business as usual. So I'm just looking at your page 102, your diagram there, or page 6 on your handout there, and it comes down to the relationship with ourselves and Sedum, how we go about business. And if I use the example of the situation, earthquake with the response and the behaviour to get economic quickly strained by regulation. But I think what I'd like to have, but the understanding that the guardrails which Sedum works with, emergency situation, accelerated or opened up to get business as usual, products going again.
Yeah, really good. Through the February event, stronger event, there was obviously emergency works that we have to carry out to basically clear debris and streams and waterways, and most of that work was carried out under existing permitted activity events. There are occasions when we can't do that and we have to act a Section 330 sense, so that allows us to carry work. So our focus in recovery is very much about how to get out of the disaster response. So I'm pretty confident action is well made with CD. Yeah, so there's further work we've got with CDM to make those things clearer. But I think that example of February's event is a good example.
And we do actually, and if I may just add to Dave's response, we do have a specific action in the framework about improving the strategic alignment and planning between Sedum and WRC. And I mean, that's one of the, what you've just made there is one of the factors that we can include in that improving that strategic planning.
If I can just another. So, because I live in a fault line, if if we had an earthquake, highways are cut out, roads are cut out. Trucks are cut out. We have about 1,000 diggers I know of, and we can move quickly. Our current distance don't allow us. All I'm saying is let's be open-minded about the types of adverse events we'd like to have, and two, a response.
Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you for your work on this. Appreciate the couple of workshops that we have had, and yeah, I'm comfortable with the process that we've come to so far. So yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that. There appears to be.
Just make the observation. Well, stuff it. Book will get done.
There are emergency works conditions. Yeah. Gary.
If I can make one more comment. Just my point, and Robbie made a comment, and I would like to have a follow-up on it. When we talk about emission reduction, my concern is, how we work, not in silos, but it's across the thing. We had an energy strategy not that long ago, and we look at what we're doing, and and we pride ourselves as a nation about our renewable energies, and I get that. But, I can see a scenario, or actually, I suppose the question that I have is, are we better off focusing on renewable energies, or if we had a bigger strategy, we wanted the new data centres, or we needed the Waikato to be a resilient place, that we fired up a coal-fired power station, which is not renewable, reduced our percentage of renewables, so our percentage has dropped. But as a region, we are more resilient, we are more reliable, we offer more, So when we get focused on just aspect of something in a silo, yes, it sounds great, but we actually miss some bigger points. And so I suppose that is where my concern is. We've got to look at all the parts. And so, just wanted to add that comment, Chair, that I think it's important that we look at the big picture.
Right, we have a motion in front of us to receive the report and then adopt it. It has been moved by Councillor Dunbar-Smith and seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well done. We look forward to the next steps. Do the councillors want a 10-minute break? Yeah. Now? So you've got to walk around the block instead, because Councillor Hughes isn't here. Right. Well, we'll take a 10-minute break and be back at 5 past. Thank you. Righto, councillors, we'll get back underway. The next item is 7.5, which is the public consultation on regional public transport plan fare policy variation going out for consultation. On page 142, you'll be aware that we've had a couple of workshops on this, and this is relative to the questions and everything that will go out for consultation. So, ladies, Catherine, Lorraine, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So this is a paper for endorsement and support, I guess, to proceed with public consultation on our proposed package of fare policy changes for our public transport network. As mentioned, the proposed package has come through the WRC Transport Committee. We did workshop the proposed package with both the WRC Transport Committee and the RTC Public Transport Committee. The latest decision in the chain of events, I guess, has been RTC PT Subcommittee's endorsement to recommend to Council that we proceed with consultation. I'll take the report as read, but if it's of interest, I'll go through the key fare changes. No? Yeah.
Just the topics, Catherine. I felt really interesting. Just the questions you're asking on obviously, gold cards. So we're asking the question on gold cards. So I forget what page it is.
No worries. Yes, the survey questions themselves.
We don't need to go right into the survey questions, but it was just interesting that, this is what we're covering in our questioning out there, and I'm sure everyone's read it.
Yes, no worries. We are particularly wanting to consult and get feedback on the main changes within the policy changes, which largely affect youth users and Supergold users. So for the youth fare changes, we have questions around the impact of increasing the bus fare cap. There's currently a 6.5 youth fare cap that's proposed to increase to 9 to align with adult users, but at the same time we're also proposing to introduce a 20% youth fare cap on all bus users. So we're asking the impact of that on users. We are also specifically asking about the Supergold changes. Part of the proposed package is to align with the national direction for Supergold to remove peak Supergold free travel. So we're trying to understand support for that, but also the impact that may have on users. And as mentioned in there's a additional question being asked around exploring conceptual interest in an inner and outer Hamilton zone.
Thanks for that, and really appreciate the way it's laid out with those questions. What we currently have, what we're asking, and those sort of things. I think it just gives real clarity to a questionnaire that's going out there. Ben.
Oh yeah. Obviously, someone reads our document very thoroughly even before we go to consultation, because we've had emails coming in from people in the outer towns, Otahonga, those sorts of places, arguing that removing Supergold card during the day damages pensioners' ability to get to the city. So I just wanted to flag that that's something that's come up already, and whether there's an ability in our process to actually differentiate between Hamilton gold card users during the day or the peak hours.
Ben, I think you're starting to go into what will be touched on with the hearings when we get that feedback in.
Okay.
I think we need to focus on this is the questionnaire that's going out.
Okay.
And that we've workshopped it rather than going into specific communities issues and stuff like that, because I'm sure they will raise that in their submissions.
Fine. Good.
So rather than getting the team to try and talk to something that will be submitted on. Yeah, thank you. Liz.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. I wasn't sure. It's all good. Hey, look, listener signals are a really important part of our process now, engaging with our community. And public transport does affect a number of people across the region. So yeah, very happy with the way that this report is laid out, but also it signals, I guess, an alignment to that national ticketing system, which we're hoping, really fingers crossed, that we're going to start delivering that sometime next year. So very, very happy with where we've got to. Just wanted to also explain the extra question that has come into the survey, and that was at a request of one of the Hamilton City councillors. The city are really interested in some of our changes, and so we would expect that there would be quite a significant submission from them as well. So I just wanted to identify that extra question came in at the request of one of the city councillors at our Regional Transport Committee meeting recently. So with that, just happy to move the recommendation, and we'll go out for consultation, listen to the feedback. Obviously there'll be a hearing, and then hopefully we'll have progress. Thanks.
Thanks for
Happy to
that.
second.
Thank you, Tipper. Angela. Happy to third.
Thank you. Yeah, just agree with Liz's comments around the process so far, and yeah, it would be really important, as previous speakers have said, to listen to the different communities. But I think just to really confirm that aligning with what everyone else is doing nationwide, especially moving to Motu Move, will be really important for that. What happens behind the scenes for Motu Move, and making it easy to understand and consistent as well. So yeah, looking forward to the process. Thanks.
Thank you, Angela. Noel.
Thank you. I'm struggling. Well, I'm supportive of, first of all, supportive of this. But has any modelling been done that if all that's proposed came to fruition, what the impact was on patronage, income and the likes? And I don't recall seeing it. You may have put it in the workshops, but I'm just having a senior moment at the moment, can't remember. So that's would be, so if that's there, is that going to be readily available to the community?
Through the chair, yes, that modelling was done for the preferred package, and that was shared both with the RTCPT subcommittee and the WRC Transport Committee. So it is on the public record, that technical report.
So when the survey goes out, will there going to be reference that document's available that people can go to?
It's not currently in the statement of proposal, no.
No, what I'm getting at is that if people are going to be commenting on, they should know the impact and have that available to them. So that should be made available through the consultation, because then you've got the whole picture. You've been asked about something, but you don't know the actual model impact. That's what I'd like to see. That's my question.
So I guess it comes down to, is there ability through our comms channels and that to make people aware that that information is on our website?
Yep, we can easily add that. Yep, as a supporting document on the consultation
I think that's all the council is looking for. Yeah. Yep. Right, Chris.
Can I just check with staff? Have you got that for each individual change, or just for a whole suite of changes? Because if it's for each individual change, I imagine there's going to be quite a lot of information have to be put out there with it, which could get a little bit confusing.
Yeah, it is presented as a package of changes, and that's how we've landed on the preferred package. There will be a lot of information, and a lot of it is technical, which is possibly why it wasn't, intended to be included in the first instance. I don't know.
We have some friends in Raglan that will want that information.
Again, noting that it's not coming down to individual fares for various services, and that's not in this. Yeah. Yeah.
Through you, Chair, the information, as we've said, has been on 2 public agendas. It's available. We can put a link onto the website.
Yeah.
It is comprehensive technical information. Yep. Within it, you can find information such as, for instance, how much having the Super Gold concession fare in peak times, for instance, is estimated to cost. You can find that information, but it will take a lot of reading.
As long as the ability's there, that's all the council is answering for. So I think that you've covered that question here. Thanks, Gary. I just want to make sure we'll get chance to have another input when the feedback comes back. This information will all come back, and staff will compile it and then look at. And then we can re-input, and because I've got a few thoughts, but I won't worry about them now. But where I'd like to see something go. I suggest the councillor maybe puts in a submission, but it will affect your ability to vote on anything further down the track.
But who will,
just the FYI?
you mentioned a hearing previously. Is that a hearing of our Transport Committee, or does it go to RTC, or does it go to the RTC Public Transport Committee?
The hearing is RTC.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got transport,
So,
sorry, yes.
Yeah.
But it's not this committee. Just for clarity, it's not the hearing is not this committee. It is the Regional Transport Committee Public Transport.
That's what I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware.
Yeah.
That'll be a recommendation back to this council.
Correct.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. If there are no other questions, the motion's on the screen. We have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Opposed?
Right.
So carried. Thank you, ladies, and we look forward to the results of these submissions. Right, the next item up is item 7.6, which is the Te Matatini event. That's on page 164 of your agenda. There's obviously 4 pieces to this motion, and I believe Phil is online. So good morning, Phil, from wherever you are. And would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Chair. And Modena councillors, yes, I'm happy to speak to this report, which I'll take as read. As the report states, Te Matatini is a national scale event which is due to occur in February next year, and we've been working with Waikato Tainui to think about how we could support the event with our existing bus and rail services, and the request that's in front of you is to offer enhancements to bus to provide a slight detour for the service to get it closer to the event entrance, Monday to Friday, and then on the Saturday operate a weekday timetable and a double-decker where we are able to. At the cost of that is outlined in the report, along with a request that Council considers funding either 50% or 100% of the costs of bus service enhancement as a result of the policies contained within the Regional Public Transport Plan. And then as a separate question, Council is asked to consider the release of spare carriages for the Te Hua rail service for Kiwi Rail and Waikato Tainui to operate a rail shuttle service to support the event at their own cost. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for that, Phil. And just noting this was obviously supported with a workshop that had that presentation from Tainui too, which made it any questions and that sort of thing around that space readily available to be answered. So I'll first go to Tipper online.
Just note that I'm still the current chair of the Waikato Tainui group, and I therefore represent the PCBU for that event as well. Kia ora.
Thank you.
If there's any questions on health and safety from councillors, thank you.
Thank you. Ben.
I'd like to move the report, particularly item number 2, the grand total of $4,660.89 is the option 2. I'd recommend item number 3 that we provide 100% of the costs, given that the $4,600 is such a minimal amount, and it supports this event. Approve the release of the Te Hua carriages, and note that this is one of the most significant economic development events to occur in our region in the coming year.
Thank you, Ben. Noel.
I was happy to move the motion, but on the basis that I support the 4.6. This came up at the JMA and was fully supported by our group of councillors. So that's 100%. I've got an issue with 4 insofar as the council approves the release of Te Hua carriages. I think this needs to be subject to operational requirements. If we have 3 trains, one of them is spare, and one of our operational trains goes out, what do? Cancel Te Hua, or do we say, sorry, we've got to maintain our existing service to the wider community? That's a question that we need to answer today, and therefore I would like to see the mover would agree that the words, so the council approves subject to operational requirements, comma, blah, blah, blah. And if the mover would do that, otherwise I'll be moving an amendment to that effect. Over to you.
I'll just give a response to that. Yes, happy to do that, subject to Phil King's comment.
I don't have any concerns with that being added.
Yeah, absolutely. So you seconding now?
I'll second it on the basis that we include those words subject to operational requirements. Yep. Thank you.
Robbie.
I was going to do the same.
Angela.
Having been in the JMA meeting and heard about this for quite some time, I agree with previous speakers that this event is highly significant for our region, with the benefits to flow, very, very widely. So I'm happy to support what is on the screen. Thank you.
Gary Raymer.
Yeah, I've got some questions that I wouldn't mind having answered if I can. One is, the one more reading of the paper, there's about $50,000 of discretionary available for this sort of stuff, which was fully allocated to, rugby to the stadium and to balloons over Waikato.
Yep.
So I suppose, where's this money coming from? And I'd say why are we fully allocating when we have potential other costs coming up? We should keep some in check. So where's the money coming from? Because it should have come out of that fund. And then, and I can't backtrack those decisions, but I suppose some clarity around that. Also, I did talk to people over, and because when you read about one of the things about the buses and the connectivity, I got some feedback from people that the buses over balloons over Waikato were good because you hopped on a bus and it went around a big circuit and it took them a lot longer to get home than what if they walked and picked their cars up. So, we've got to make sure that we're actually providing a service that is going to be superior rather than they're not. And
I think that was clearly laid out that this is an improvement on them having to walk down the road for 700 metres, etc.
The point being, funding, 50,000 allocated, where's the money coming from? And I suppose why was that?
So I'm not going to go into that existing fund, but Phil, if you could ask the question of where's this, if the motion goes ahead at $4,660.89, where it's coming from.
Councillor Raymer is correct that the funds are not currently budgeted. Because of the scale of this spend, I think we can find that within our other existing budgets rather than ask you to consider it through the forecast process. But if you'd like us to do that, we can do that.
So you will find it out of existing budgets. So there's no impact.
I believe we can achieve that with this sum.
Yeah, and I believe councillors can have faith in that assertion. No. Okay. If there are no other questions, we have a mover and a seconder for this, as indicated there. So just noting that it is for the $4,660.89, and it is at the 100%, and it is the release of the carriages subject to operational requirements that was added in.
Could you please note my abstention for the aforementioned real or perceived conflict? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Tipper. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried, noting Tipper's abstention. Right, we now look to move into public excluded. Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Robbie. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried.
right, I'm all lost and stuck. You'll be right. Saving myself.
We're back in.
We're back.
We're back in. Okay. Thank you, Okay. Thank you, councillors. I'll just come to Councillor Dunbar Smith for the closing karakia. Thank you, Ben.
On this.
Yeah. Unahia mai te uru tapu nui, ki watia, ki mama, ki natau, ki te tinana, te hininaro, i te ara takatu, koe rau I rongo, I whakaaira ake ki runga, kia tina, huye, taiekie, draw on, draw on to the supreme sacredness, to clear, to free our body, heart, and soul, our pathway prepared. Lo, there is peace, suspended high above, manifest, draw together, affirm.
Thank you, Ben. And with that, I call the meeting closed at 12:05.
Kia ora.